What is up, everybody? We're back at it, starting off our week 9 rankings with the RBs as usual. I hope everybody had a good week 8. Really brutal for the quarterback injuries, but luckily most of the skill positions made it out pretty fine. But there definitely are some situations to monitor as we head into this week. Also, we have bye weeks again, so we're not going to have the Niners, Lions, Jaguars, or Broncos this week. So that means no CMC, no Travis Etienne, no Jahmyr Gibbs, no David Montgomery, no Javonte Williams, no Jaleel McLaughlin. So that definitely sucks because those are some top RBs there, but we're going to dive into the rest of them right here in this video. And if you have any questions along the way, just drop them down below in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And also drop a like on the video while you're at it. It really helps me out and this channel a ton. And if you do like this content and I've been helping you out, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep putting this out and hopefully we can all get some championships this year. All right, now let's get into those rankings. Alright, so with CMC and Travis Etienne being on bye, some other guys kind of dealing with some weird situations. For this week, at least right now, I have Alvin Kamara at my number 1 running back. They're going up against the Chicago Bears this week, who have actually been pretty good against running backs over the past month, but on the season have not been. But he's getting so much volume and has been really productive with the volume that he's getting and really efficient with it that I'm just going to keep on trusting it, and they should be just fine. The offense has been starting to click more and more, and he's been a main reason for that. So until we see the usage change for Kamara, I think he's going to keep on being a top-end RB1. And then after him, we're going to have Saquon Barkley up next, going up against Las Vegas Raiders this week, who have given up the second most points to running backs over the past month. And this past week was kind of weird for him because he got 36 rushes and like 128 yards, I think. But that was just mostly because of the quarterback situation. They're on their third quarterback and they literally couldn't throw the ball, so he had to do everything. And the offense looked terrible, but obviously there's a very explainable reason for that. And it sounds like Daniel Jones will be back this week. So although Daniel Jones might not be great, he is significantly better than who they had in. And this should help out Barkley and his offense overall. And also now with a great matchup and the fact that he's basically healed from his injury, he should have a great week. And the other guy I'm going to have in this top tier is going to be Austin Eckler going up against the New York Jets, who do have a good defense, but they've given up the 6th most points to running backs over the past month. So it actually is a pretty friendly matchup for running backs. And Austin Eckler is somebody who's going to overcome the matchup even if it is hard. And we finally saw him back to his usual self this past week. So I think that for the rest of the season, I think that should continue unless obviously he gets hurt again. But for right now, should be another great running back week for him. And to start off the second tier, I will have Breece Hall here. As you can see, a little bit weird with some of those big guys missing to have someone like Breece Hall as high as he is. But we saw last week, wasn't good on the ground, barely was used on the ground at all, but he broke a 50-yard receiving touchdown, has that ability to do that every single week, and he's getting basically all the work now. And this is what we really wanted from him. And going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, who have been a pretty middle-of-the-road matchup against running backs, it should be a spot for him to just continue having great production. And then up next, we're going to have Isaiah Pacheco here. They have a matchup in Germany against the Miami Dolphins, who have actually been really, really good against running backs over the past month, but on the season, more middle of the road. So don't know exactly what the truth is, but over the past month, they have been very good against running backs. So it does scare me a little bit, but I think that this Chiefs team is going to be really upset with how they performed this past week and are going to come out just guns blazing against the Dolphins. And I think everyone should be involved. Obviously, Pacheco too has been really good over the past month or more of the season, and he's getting majority of the work in this backfield. And in what should be a really high scoring matchup, I definitely want him in my lineup. And then after him is another kind of weird case, but it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. He has an unbelievable matchup this week against Carolina, who are giving up the most points to running backs on the year. So we absolutely love that. And we saw him for basically the entire first half last week, and he was doing amazing at running the ball, looking basically like his old self. But in the second half, he barely touched the ball whatsoever. They didn't say he had an injury, but I can't imagine there's anything but an injury that was going on there. But we haven't seen anything yet, so gonna want to monitor that situation. But if he's playing, I'm going to put him in my lineup because he looks unbelievable right now. And in one of the best matchups for running backs, it should be a spot for him to just continue getting back to his old self. And the last guy in this tier I'm going to have is going to be Bijan Robinson going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who have actually given up the 5th least points to running back over the past month. So it is a hard matchup, but we saw Bijan have a good week last week. And now that Taylor Heineke is going to be the starter, I think that's only an improvement for this offense. So that definitely will help him out. But Bijan's usage has been a very big question mark over the past month or so. So I am a little bit worried, but he's still just way too good to have ranked outside of his top 2 tiers, and still is getting plenty of volume to be really productive for fantasy. Then to start off the next tier, we will have Josh Jacobs here, who has been, he looked good last week, even with as bad as that offense looked, and overall has definitely picked up his efficiency over the past month or so. And I don't He still might be. He was leading the league in touches. I don't know if he still is, but he's definitely up there. He's been getting a ton of snaps. So all the usage we absolutely love. It's just that this offense hasn't been that good, but they just fired their offensive coordinator. They fired their head coach, their GM. They benched Jimmy G. So I think that this could be, although it is obviously scary, I think it actually might be a positive. I think it's kind of addition by subtraction. And now Aiden O'Connell is a starting quarterback there. And the 1 week that we saw with Aiden, Josh Jacobs got 11 targets. So we love to see that for fantasy. I don't know if that's going to be indicative of every single week, but obviously he's going to want to check down. And for Josh Jacobs, we just absolutely love that. And in a great matchup this week against the New York Giants, it should be a week where Josh Jacobs really shows out. After him, we will have DeAndre Swift here. Obviously, he's been really good for fantasy so far. And this week they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who seem like a really tough matchup, but they've actually given up the 4th most points to running backs over the past month. And regardless, DeAndre Swift and the Eagles offensive line are normally able to overcome tough matchups because they're so good. And even though this is a really strong defensive line, they haven't been good against the run. And so I think this should be another week where DeAndre Swift just continues a really surprising campaign. After Swift, we will have Raheem Mostert here. He obviously didn't do too much last week, and we saw a lot more of Jeff Wilson, but he's still the clear lead back here. And they really just didn't run the ball a ton. Now this week they are going to Germany and they are playing the Chiefs, so that is a tough matchup for all the positions. But right now he still is very valuable and has been used in a way, just a down week for him. Unless we see more of the same and more of Jeff Wilson, like almost a 50-50 split, then we'll definitely be more concerned. But for right now, I'm not really too worried about it. Another situation we're going to want to monitor, but the last guy in this tier is going to be Kenneth Walker. He did not get a lot of opportunity this past week. I think it was only 9 rushes, but he went for like 66 yards. So on the very small opportunity he got, he looks really good. Now, he didn't have an injury designation coming into the game, but he was injured all week, was limited all week. And that's the only reason I could think that it ended up the way that it did. I don't think that they're just handing the keys over to Zach Charbonnet right now. It could become a closer split in touches like a lot of us expected, but for right now I still just think that Kenneth Walker is a lead back there and should be just fine. Now if we continue to see this and he doesn't have any injuries throughout the week, then that will obviously be a lot more concerning. I have obviously moved him down some, but I'm still going to be starting Kenneth Walker most likely. And then to start off the next year, guy playing on Thursday Night Football is going to be Derrick Henry. We saw Will Levis for the first time this past week and he did really good and overall just helped out this offense a bunch. It was one of Henry's best days, especially rushing the ball. So we don't know exactly. I mean, I doubt, Will Levis going to be throwing 4 touchdowns every single game, but it does seem like at the bare minimum, he will open up this offense some. And when they're able to do that, it really frees stuff up for Henry. And if they're at least close to being tied or ahead in the game, then he's going to get a lot more work. And playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week on Thursday Night Football, who are in middle of the road, a little bit easier matchup for running backs, it should be a good week for Henry and this offense. And I think that he will want to show out for prime time. After him is going to be Joe Mixon. Now, I watched every single snap of this game because I am a Niners fan, and Joe Mixon just looked so much faster than he had all year. I don't know what exactly that was, if it was because he was motivated by the matchup, but hopefully we see more of that. And now this week they're playing the Buffalo Bills, who definitely another matchup that would motivate him. And they've also given up the 5th most points to running backs over the past month. So everything really lines up for Joe Mixon to have another really good week. I'm just hoping that he can keep it up, but we will have to see because we haven't really seen it yet. And after Mixon, I'm going to have Tony Pollard, who obviously has been struggling a lot, even though this offense has looked pretty good. It just has not been what we thought of. I mean, it looked pretty good for the first couple of weeks of the season, but over the past month, it has not been good whatsoever. And now also this week, they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have given up the 3rd least points to running backs on the year. So that's a scary matchup for him. And a guy that's already struggling, obviously you're going to have him in your lineup most likely because he is a workhorse running back on a good offense and has shown over years that he's a very productive player and has shown it this year that he's very good, but we just have not gotten what I think a lot of us expected. So he is lower in my rankings this week, but you're still probably going to be playing him, especially given the bye weeks this week. After Tony Pollard, I'm going to have Gus Edwards here. He scored 3 touchdowns this past week. Obviously, not going to get that every single week, but it does seem like he is the main lead back here, and I don't really foresee that going anywhere. Justice Hill will still get opportunity, but seems like Gus Edwards, at least for the foreseeable future, is the main back in Baltimore right now. Now, they do have a tough matchup this week against the Seattle Seahawks, who have given up the 7th least points to running backs over the past 4 weeks, but this offense is so good. They're one of the best rush, if not the best rush offense in the entire NFL. So I'm still going to be using him. But I do think that this kind of middle RB2 is where he will be going forward unless we see some drastic change in the backfield. And the last guy in this tier is going to be James Cook. His situation honestly has stayed pretty consistent throughout this year so far. He's getting a lot of rushing work, but not really getting any of the red zone work. And he gets some receiving work, but not a ton of consistency there. So he is useful every single week, but he's definitely not quite that 3-down running back that I thought that he might be. They also just signed Leonard Fournette. Now, I don't really know if he'll be used much this week at all, but it obviously shows that they want some of those bigger body guys like Latavius Murray, who they have been using a lot. So I think that James Cook will have value, but it's hard to see him having like really elite upside just given the way that he's being utilized in this offense. And then at RB17, I'm going to have Rachaad White here, who was really, really good last week. He got 7 receptions for 70 yards. And if you're going to do that as a running back, you're going to be solid every single week. And now this week they're playing Houston, who have actually been pretty good against running backs over the past month. But Rachaad White is somebody who's really high in the snap share for running backs on the year. So you're just going to keep on playing him as a volume play. And he can take advantage of a good matchup, which this isn't really a great matchup, but he's still just getting so much volume that you're going to have him in your lineup every single week. And after him is going to be Aaron Jones, where, I mean, this offense has looked really bad as of late, and they haven't not been utilizing Aaron Jones the way that they should be. He has been coming back from injury, so I think that's a big reason why. I'm hoping that, I mean, they have been ramping him up more and more, but I'm hoping that they really just let him back into a workhorse role, because at this point, I don't know what exactly they need, but he is definitely probably their best offensive player, and they have not been utilizing him as such. And now they got to take on the LA Rams, who I think are honestly at a pretty similar level as the Green Bay Packers, so definitely a winnable game and one that they should be in. I'm just hoping that we see the usage go up for Jones, because they need it, and he is very effective when they give it to him. Next up, we're going to have Chuba Hubbard here, who really just looks like the better running back in this backfield. Now, I don't know if Miles Sanders just isn't really healthy yet. I mean, I know that he wasn't fully, but he played last week, but it seems like Chuba Hubbard is leading it right now. They did pay Miles Sanders this offseason, so that is definitely a thought that they're going to want to use him because they paid him, but at least for the time being, Chuba's the better running back in this offense. And they have a great matchup this week in the Colts, who are giving up the third most points to running backs on the year. So whoever the good running back is there, I definitely want him. And I believe it's Chuba Hubbard. That's what we've seen over the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to have him in my lineup if I got him. But something you're still definitely going to want to monitor, because it's not set in stone that this is his backfield or anything. Kind of a similar guy that I'm going to have up next, it's going to be RoAndre Stevenson. Him and Zeke just seem to be close. I mean, it's still RoAndre as a lead back, but they have a pretty close split of touches there, and they're both being utilizing in the receiving game. I thought honestly it was going to be RoAndre in the receiving game and then Zeke rushing the ball more, but it seems kind of 50-50 there with that. But RoAndre is still, I think, the better back here, but we haven't seen any consistency from him. They are playing the Washington Commanders this week, which have a good defense, but they did just trade away Montez Sweat and Chase Young, so I think that their defense is going to be much worse than it was. So I think it should be a good matchup for RoAndre. I think that he'll capitalize on it, but I'm hoping that we can see more than we have so far. And the last guy in this tier I'm going to have is going to be Zach Moss. He's still just getting opportunity in the Colts, and until we see that go away, you can't stop ranking him or playing him really. I mean, obviously you can not play him if you have better options, but if you want to play him, you definitely can, because he is getting plenty of opportunity to still be solid for running backs. And like I talked about with Jonathan Taylor, they have the best matchup for running backs on at least over the past month. And so if he gets another 15 opportunities, he's going to be really solid for fantasy. It was really weird last week seeing Taylor dominate the first half and then not really play in the second half. I hope that he gives more clarity there. But for the time being, I'm still playing Zach Moss with at least some confidence. And then to start off the next tier, I'm going to have Brian Robinson Jr. here first. He has a great matchup in the New England Patriots, but he just hasn't been that productive as of late, although he still is a top 10 running back on the year. We haven't seen any explosion games lately, but he still is getting enough volume and has been really efficient running the ball. They're just not giving him that real volume that could make him super valuable for fantasy. Hopefully they will in this matchup, where they should be ahead, they should be leading, although they do have a worse defense now, so there could be some more opportunity for some more throwing, which I thought that he wouldn't be involved in whatsoever, but he actually has been. But I thought at one point this year that he could be like a top 15 running back. That definitely does not seem like the case anymore, but he's still going to be a low-end RB2, I think, most weeks. After B-Rob, we will have Kareem Hunt here, who had a really good week this past week, even with Jerome Ford playing, which when I ranked him last week, I did not think Jerome Ford would be playing, and then he did. I think by probably surprised most people, and Jerome looked decent too, but it seemed like Kareem Hunt, at least right now, is a little bit more valuable because I still don't think Ford is totally healthy off a high ankle sprain. Plus, this week they're playing the Arizona Cardinals, which is a really good matchup for running backs. We do need to monitor their quarterback situation because PJ Walker got kind of hurt. Deshaun Watson is back at practice, but I don't know if he's going to play whatsoever. So their ranking at the end of the week will depend on what the quarterback situation is. I obviously have no idea at this point. It's Wednesday right now when I'm recording this, but I have no idea right now at this point when that will be. But as long as it's Deshaun Watson or PJ Walker, I think that both these guys will be fine for fantasy. After Kareem Hunt, I have Darrell Henderson here, who definitely looks like the lead back right now, at least while Kyron is on IR. Another quarterback situation that we will have to monitor was Matthew Stafford, because if Matthew Stafford isn't playing, then I probably don't want Darrell Henderson in my lineup, although I guess he could be getting a lot of checkdowns, but probably won't want him in my lineup if Matthew Stafford isn't there, because that really makes the offense goes. But the matchup at Green Bay is pretty good for running backs. They've been middle of the road over the past month, but really bad against running backs on the year. But another situation that we kind of monitor. Honestly, this whole tier is kind of like that besides Brian Robinson, but the other guy having it is Jerome Ford. Talked about a lot with Kareem Hunt. Very similar situation. Kareem Hunt definitely gets a little bit more receiving work, but when they're both healthy, I think it'll be closer to a 50-50 split now, maybe with Jerome getting a little bit more work, but I don't think he's fully healthy yet, so that's why I have him ranked lower, but still definitely viable as long as Deshaun or PJ plays. If Dorian Thompson-Robinson played, then don't want either of them in my lineup whatsoever. And then to start off this last tier, I'm going to have Alexander Madison first. Now, obviously, they lost Kirk Cousins, so that is a massive hit for this offense. They did trade for Joshua Dobbs, so they do have a relative starting quarterback instead of Jaron Hall, although it's a decent chance that Jaron Hall is going to be the one playing this week. So that's definitely worrisome for fantasy because I don't know how good that's going to be for the offense. But I do imagine that they're going to want to run the ball a lot more than they have previously because they've been one of the highest passing volume teams in the league, and now without Kirk Cousins, I imagine they'll want to run the ball more. So Madison should have higher volume, but it probably won't be as efficient, and it already wasn't efficient, so that does worry me. But with the amount of volume that he should be getting, he's definitely a flex option right now, but it'll be interesting to see what this offense looks like without Kirk Cousins. After him, we got Naji Harris, who has been running a little bit better. We're going to see him on Thursday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans, which on the year have been really good against running backs. Haven't been quite as good over the past month, but still not an easy option. After him is going to be Deonta Foreman. They're going up against New Orleans Saints, who are a really tough matchup for running backs, so definitely scary for him. Doesn't seem like Justin Fields will be back either, and Roschon Johnson is back, so there's just a lot of factors going against Deonta Foreman right now, but it's still definitely a guy that is in consideration just where the landscape is right now with running backs and bye weeks and injuries, where you could definitely do a lot worse than him, but I'm definitely not excited to play him if I have to. Same thing with the next guy, Dameon Pierce, who, I mean, he did score a touchdown, but then it got called back right afterwards, so kind of got screwed there, but overall, just definitely not his backfield. He is getting volume still and is getting the goal line work, so I think he's the most valuable running back in this backfield, but he does not operate as a workhorse whatsoever in this backfield, and that's what made him so valuable last year. And also this week, they're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have given up the second least points to running backs on the year, so there's a lot of things going against him, but there are definitely situations where you're going to be forced into playing him. And the last guy I got in the top 30 is going to be Jaylen Warren, who obviously going to be seen on Thursday Night Football. A lot of similar things with Naji Harris. They just play very differently and operate as very different backs, but Jaylen Warren, very, very explosive, won't get as much volume as Naji, but he does definitely have more upside every time he touches the ball, but he's not going to get as many touches, so it is very scary to play him, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be playing him in one of the leagues that I have him, just because I'm in a pretty shitty situation right now with Javonte on bye, Calvin Ridley on bye, Devon Achane hurt. Sometimes you're forced into it, and I'm going to be playing him this week, but I'm definitely not excited about it. I'm just hoping that he can catch a couple balls or score a touchdown like he does every once in a while. But yeah, here's my top 30. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you have any questions about start sits, other guys I didn't put on this rankings, whatever you want, just let me know down below in the comments. I should be uploading my wide receiver rankings shortly after this, so just make sure you stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys there. Later.